ever wondered if we could time travel, how could that affect us? And how could we change things, or things could change for us? Well, I often wonder the other way around, meaning, what if people from the past could see how the world is today? And what would they think? I'm sure it would be a fascinating, but also to some level quite a daunting experience. And being a photographer myself, I often wonder how the photographers of the past would react in today's world. How would they see? How would they operate? Would that change the work that they produced if they had access to all this technology? I'm sure it would, but I guess we'll have to see how. So today I want you to reimagine, or rather think of two colliding worlds. Ansel Adams as a contemporary photographer. I guess it's safe to say, welcome back to another video, perhaps a potential new series where we reimagine colliding worlds within the photography industry, or perhaps creative industries. Let's jump into it. One thing we have to realize about Ansel Adams is that although he is known as one of the greatest landscape photographers of all time, there's much more that lies beneath this surface. Adams, like all of us, was a product of his upbringing. But in his particular upbringing, we should highlight the almost Victorian influence of his parents socially and emotionally. Adams once said, "I know I shall be castigated by a large group of people today, but I was trained to assume that art related to the elusive quality of beauty and that the purpose of art was concerned with the elevation of the spirit." And while this can appear to many of us today as antiquated, perhaps somewhat Gothic, a Gothic way of thinking, I'd say that this is a key to understand the experience of Ansel Adams photography, because it's not just about being pretty landscapes captured in a beautiful way. It's about the experience, and it's about the way he captures those landscapes and the dramatism and all the things that he brings forward. He wants you to experience it, and he wants to almost elevate the state of that thing. He photographed it as he saw. So many of these photos are a pre-visualization of what he felt and what he saw as an artist, and in a way it elevates the real or the reality of these particular landscapes. So I think this is really, really important to capture and have in mind, because I think it's something that he would carry on to the future. And let us not forget, Ansel Adams was extremely passionate about the environment and conservation. During his life, he attended numerous meetings and wrote thousands of letters in support of his conservation philosophy to newspaper editors, conservation societies, government bureaucrats, and politicians. He fought for new parks and wilderness areas, for the Wilderness Act, for wild Alaska, for the mighty redwoods, for endangered sea lions and other creatures, and for clean air and water. Ansel Adams was an advocate of balanced, restrained use of resources. Adams also fought relentlessly against overbuilt highways, billboards, and all manner of environmental mendicancy and short-sightedness. His black and white images are therefore not realistic documents of nature. Instead, they sought an intensification and purification of the psychological experience of natural beauty. And to be completely honest with you, I feel like he would have gone deeper, much deeper into this route of conservation, of fighting for the environment, because I mean, imagine all this progress that we've seen and the impact that it's had in the world and in the environment. And so I feel like he would have probably done somewhat of what Sebastião Salgado did in this book Genesis, where he traveled to different areas of the world and he showcased natural beauty and animals. I feel like Ansel Adams would have not just been tied to the US, but he would have tried to, explore this psychological beauty of, the natural beauty of the world in many, many places. Use his platform to promote that sort of thing. And so I feel like in a way, I think he would have created or continued to create, like in this path of creating photos around landscape, and just continue that, because he was aware of the progress and what progress could carry to the world in terms of the devastating consequences for nature. And so I feel like this would be perhaps at the center of, his book. Perhaps he would become, a great talker and do talks just solely on this and his philosophy, and probably put a lot of books on this and uses photography and his achievements as a photographer as a platform to voice all of these concerns. In talking about technology, what do you think would be the means or the tools that Ansel Adams would use today? I personally feel that he would perhaps photograph on film, but most likely move to digital, because he would have grown. Since the film situation has a lot of impact, environmental impact, I think he would still photograph in film to a certain extent, but he also would have progressively, or if not, for the sake of the argument here, just gone full digital. And so going full digital, what would he photograph with? In the final print of his book, The Negative, in 1981, he wrote, "I eagerly await new concepts and processes. I believe that the electronic image will be the next major advance. Such systems will have their own inherent and inescapable structural characteristics, and the artist and functional practitioner will again strive to comprehend and control them." I think these words are quite remarkable in the sense that I believe that they're quite accurate to what we have experienced and continue to experience today as photographers. But I want us to now look back at the past and see what kind of gear Ansel Adams carried back in his day. Beaumont Newell, who narrated Larry Dawson's 1957 film Ansel Adams, Photographer, describes Adams's photographic gear as, quote, "A fine craftsman employs different tools for different purposes. One 8x10 view camera, 20 holders, 4 lenses, one 7x17 special panorama camera with a lens and 5 holders, one 4x5 view camera, 6 lenses, one Hasselblad camera outfit with a 38, 60, 80, 135 and 200mm lenses, one Coniflex 35mm camera, 2 Polaroid cameras, 3 exposure meters, Now, to make this more sustainable and practical to record this video, I used a lot of gear, but I wanted to highlight a few things I think Ansel Adams would probably use to his advantage today. First, we have the main camera I borrowed for this video, which I think it would be within the range of the camera options Adams would probably use, and that is the Hasselblad H5D with 3 lenses, a 35, a 50 to 110mm and a 150mm lens, which I borrowed from my partners at MPB.
This is Miss Anne, and this is her beloved dog, Clark Gable. And all Miss Anne has ever wanted was to have an elegant and illustrious portrait taken of both of them. But how? She didn't know much about photography, and she did not want to spend a fortune on a camera. She had, in fact, a terrible time until she came across MPB. Through their kit guides and wonderful articles, she found herself an attractive new camera, suitable for all her needs. Not only that, Miss Anne treated herself to a handsome tripod, a beautiful lens, a silky new camera strap, some colorful filters, you name it, she bought it. And all with a 6-month warranty, which gave Miss Anne some peace of mind. Thanks to MPB, Miss Anne became not just a photographer, she became a great photographer, specializing, of course, in dog portraiture. If you want to be like Miss Anne, head over to MPB, as links are down below.
And the reason I selected and I think this range of Hasselblads would be something he would probably use is because, one, he was a consultant for Hasselblad himself during his lifetime, and he was in fact known for also using their cameras. I think the shooting experience, rather the positioning of things within the body of the camera, makes this a somewhat similar experience to shooting the Hasselblads Ansel Adams was known to shoot. Now, this particular line of cameras have excellent and varied lens options, and we all know at this point Ansel liked to work and at least keep his options open as to use different lenses for his work. But again, I also think he would have used a lot more different cameras to complement his work, today as he did during his lifetime. Now, the big change would be when it comes to carrying darkroom equipment and filters. I think he would have probably carry a lot of filters for different purposes, temperatures, neutral density filters, you name it. But supposing he went full digital, he would probably carry a tablet or a smartphone, perhaps both, so we could take notes and most likely consult certain apps that I think would be essential. Now, I've made a few notes on the apps that I think he would have used, and I think he would have used an app to function like a map with more detailed access to roads, directions. This particular one I'm using has a compass as well, which is great for direction and orientation during hikes and walks, which he was known to do a lot for his work. And another app with information on weather and the movement of the sun, which is particularly handy for photographers, especially because there's also predictions for future dates. I feel like he would also use a phone as a sort of handy tool to make notes of locations, to take pictures of places that he would have wanted to return to. And I think personally that he would have taken advantage of the app versions of Lightroom and Photoshop to experiment with his photos on location, to do some simple editing. I mean, the idea is that Photoshop and Lightroom would be Ansel Adams' modern darkroom. And I think we can go as far as to say that he probably would have built masterclasses on this. He probably would have dedicated a lot of his time to study how he could create the effects that he wanted, dodge and burn, and how to work that on a sort of digital level. And I feel like he would have been extremely prolific at doing this, perhaps, even creating like profiles and stuff that he could then, market. Who knows? But I think it's important to refer to these things as far-fetched as they might seem. But I think it's an interesting idea of also comparing past methods with modern methods in photography terms. Now, one particular idea I thought a lot of during my research for this video was color. Now, I don't want to make any bold claims here, but Ansel Adams, contrary to general thinking, worked extensively in color, mainly for commercial projects, but it is estimated that during his lifetime he produced 3,500 color photographs. And this is not just some random information, this is a direct quote from his gallery. And I also wanted to quote them on something else. One reason Adams published so few color photographs during his lifetime is that color reproduction was inaccurate and limited at the time. Adams didn't believe that the color process of his day could produce results to compare with the rich visual deliberation, the fine-grained luxurious of his work in black and white. To put it bluntly, he didn't think he could control the outcome with color, and for Adams, control over the artistic process meant everything. Now, this is very, very interesting for me to discuss because there's this kind of general idea that is not very right, and I also thought this was the norm, but then I, did some research as well. It's not that Ansel Adams didn't like color, he wasn't against color. It was just a constraint more of his era, the time that he lived in. If you remember the video that I did on Fred Herzog, he didn't print his work for ages because the processes of his day didn't allow for the color, the colors to pop and the colors to be rendered properly. Now, we're talking about someone that if he lived in today's world, I think he would have embraced color. I think he would have wanted to explore and study color, perhaps develop methods to expose for colors to get more, better color rendering, etc. I think with his industry connections, he would have probably, with Polaroid or even Photoshop or even other brands like Kodak would have developed methods or would have consulted at least or been consulted on particular tools that they would have come up with, and this is something that a lot of people don't know, but also right before he passed away, he was working on a book on color theory. So I think it's a subject that it is known that he was very, very intrigued by, he wanted to learn, and so I feel like in today's world, he would have embraced it more. I wouldn't say necessarily that his photography would have become color photography, but I think that he would have definitely put a lot more color photos out there. And also, let us not forget that Ansel Adams was an artist, but also to some extent a technician who lived fascinated and open to future possibilities. So I believe he would have shot black and white, but also in color. Perhaps write essays on the difference between the two of them. And if you want to hear my thoughts on this, I actually have a video on the channel that I posted a while back on the basically non-existent debate between color versus black and white. It's something that you might find interesting, and with that, I wanted to, just close today's video. It was super, super cool to make this video. I think it's very, very awesome to think of things and, how the photography, the evolution of photography, how this can also make us think of our own methods and how we can change or perhaps adapt ourselves to things, how we can probably open our minds to try different things. And so I hope this video within that context was helpful, and I hope you enjoy it. So if you enjoy it, let me know down below. Leave a like as well, because it helps recommend this video to more people. Also, a big thank you to MPB for allowing me to, work with this gear, allowing me to be creative and make these videos. I definitely have a lot to thank them for. And again, don't forget that if you want to pick up something, they're available as well. They're an online platform, but also all over the world. They have, the UK MPB, the AU MPB, European MPB, and also have the US MPB, but they ship pretty much to all over. So links to them are down below. I really appreciate you for watching, for supporting the channel. If you want to become a member, links are down below. I really appreciate that as well. And yeah, I guess I'll see you around for another video very, very soon. And if you like this, let me know, because we can make this into a series and think of probably filmmakers or photographers or other creatives if they were photographers, or if they were photographers now, whatever. Just the concept is reimagining. So thank you once again, and I guess that I'll see you around for another video very soon. Take care, stay safe, keep shooting, keep learning, keep creating, and I'm out. Peace.
Seen it all, you can all benefit too. Femme fatale, I can't fall in love with you. Seen it all.